Okay, so we're going to talk about stair sections a little bit, and this is what your stair section should look like at some point when you get it completed. So I'm just kind of showing you one that's, it hasn't been labeled a lot yet, but it's detail-wise it's pretty complete. So we have a stairway, we have this half-wall railing that's between the two flights of stairs up on the second level, so it's kind of a handrail wall. And at the very top we have a guardrail so you don't fall off into the stairwell at the top. We also have the floor truss detailed in here. And in a previous video you put that detail into your cross section, right? Once you have it in your cross section, you can copy paste it into this detail, so you don't have to recreate all that stuff. So if it doesn't show up on your section, just keep in mind that you could go back to that other section, copy it to a clipboard, and paste it into this one. You can't paste the line in the current view, but you can paste it and move it into position. Okay. As this floor joist comes across and ends at the opening for the stairwell, we have to support the ends of those trusses, right? So in this case, I have put in here a like a microlam beam that's going to head off the end of those floor trusses where they stop to create the stairwell opening. And then obviously we'd have to hang those trusses with a joist hanger off of that microlam, right? Make sense? So right here we have this microlam beam, and then we have the joist hanger that I've just drawn in there with detail lines. Nothing, you don't go get a component. We have our ceiling coming across, and obviously the sheetrock would have to go up and cover that microlam beam, depending on where we're cutting through our stairway. Okay. The stairway has the stringers, has the treads and the risers, and at some point it has to be hanging again off the other side of that microlam beam. And a typical hanger for stair stringers is what, a 3/4 inch plywood hanger that we attach to the top end of the stringers, and then we can nail that into the microlam beam. So these are all details, line work that you have to add to this section at some point. I'm just talking about the things that you'll add as just detail line work. Of course, down here at the landing you will create the headers for this first flight of stairs coming up to the landing. You'll have the joists for the landing and the rim joist that attaches, or the ledger I should say, that attaches to the stud on the outside edge. So this is all just kind of 2D line work that you're going to add to the detail at some point. As you can see, I went through and created this whole detail. I added a level here for the level of the landing height. But as I went in to put in my headroom, I ended up with 6'5" and 13/32. Is that satisfactory? No. What's the minimum headroom? 6'8". Okay, so obviously I went to a lot of work, and one of the last things I did was put on the dimension for the headroom, and it's wrong. So I'm going to have to do some modifications to this detail. I'm going to have to go all the way back to when I put in my stair section, or my stairway originally, and see what I'd have to modify to get this to work. So quite a bit has to be done. So one of the first things you want to do when you put your stairway in is you want to find out what that headroom is to start with before you go too far. That was just kind of an example of, okay, I did a lot of line work here, and now I'm going to have to go and move all that line work and make some changes and stuff. So one of the first things you want to do is put in this dimension for the headroom. 6'8" is the minimum. It can be 6'9", it can be 6'10", it can be 7 foot, but as long as it's not less than 6'8". Okay, so we're going to go back and start over here. So I'm going to go back to my floor plan, and this is the stair section that I put in here, and just for speed I'm going to go over here and cut through this other stairway, and we'll start over. So first thing I'm going to do is put in a new section. Not that I couldn't modify that one there, but I think I'll just start over for the demonstration purposes. And wherever you start is where the head of the section detail is going to be, so I'm going to start up here. I'm going to draw down through this stairway. Obviously I'm pointing the wrong direction, so I can hit the flip arrows and turn it back. and I don't want it up in my dimensions, so I'll pull it down a little bit. And I have a section. Now if you click on that, you'll notice that this section goes all the way through over to this wall here. I probably don't want to see that much, so I'll drag that back a ways. Okay, so I'm not seeing all the way through the building. Then I'll click on the head of that section, and now I have this detail. Okay, so we have this wall in the center of our 2 flights of stairs that we put in earlier, and you can see that it is hiding the first flight of stairs. And the way to make that visible is you click on that wall, right-click, go to override the graphics in the view by the element, and under transparency, surface transparency, make that transparent and say OK, and now you can see through the wall. Okay, so it's a level of transparency in the wall. Okay, so now as you can see, I don't have a lot of detail into my floor joists and so forth, and I can go down here to the bottom. The level of detail was at coarse, and if I change that to fine, then at least I'll be able to see the subfloor, the gypcrete, the sheetrock on the ceilings, and a little more detail to it, right? But I don't see the detail of the truss itself yet. What's the first thing I should put on here? The headroom, right? I want to check my headroom. So that's one of the first things I want to do, because if I have to do some modifications, I want to do those right away. So I'm going to go, and I want to dimension from right here, that's where the opening headroom would be, to the stairway, and it's the nosing of the stairs. So I'm going to go to annotate, go to a detail line, and I'm going to put a line on from nosing to nosing up here. And then I'm going to take and move that line, or copy that line, I should say, up 6'8". Okay. So I can see that in this case my stairway is right. I'm over 6'8", right? I can tell right there that my headroom is going to be fine. It's over 6'8". I can put a dimension on here. And it's going to tell me that that's 6'8". So that tells me my headroom is 6'8". So I'm going to actually just kind of delete that dimension for now. As long as I know that it's 6'8", I don't want it in my way right now. Okay, when I created this section, down at the bottom you'll see that it defaulted to 1/8 inch equals a foot. Obviously we're not going to have this detail at that scale, so I'll right away change it to probably 3/8 equals a foot. Okay, so I've enlarged it a little bit. And what's important to this detail is the only thing I want to show on this detail. So do I need the footings and the foundation wall on a stair detail? No. So I'm going to grab my crop view, and I'm going to just hide everything up to just under my floor. Do I need the roof truss on there? Probably not, so I can drag this down. Do I need the outside overhang? No, so I can drag that over. Do I need to see this wall back here? Probably not, so I can drag that over. So you want to conceal as much as you can of things that aren't important to the detail. And then we can actually turn off the crop window. So you get a detail more like that. Okay. This floor line that's coming through here, kind of confusing that floor line is in there. If I go back and look at my first floor plan again, it has to do with this line going through this wall here. So if I drag that line back into the stairwell space, Now that line went away. So it's how far you're looking through the building is what you're seeing. So we can pull that back. It also eliminated the joist that's on the landing, you'll see. Okay, all I have now is the surface of the landing and not a floor joist under it. That's not really a problem. I'll go back and show you what it was before. So if I undid that, that line there is the one that went away, right? Okay. I don't really care if that line is there. I'm going to add one later anyway, probably. So I'm just going to redo that, get it back to that, because that's what I'm looking for. Okay, so I've got this wall in the middle here, and visually I can kind of tell just at a glance. I don't know if you can see this, but if I put a line like I did on the bottom stair here that is on the nosings again, using the detail line from here to here, this half wall or railing wall, what we might call a divider wall between the two flights, should be 3 foot above those nosings. So if I click on that one and copy that line up, straight up 3 foot, that's where this half wall should be. I'm going to drag this up to here and down to here, and so that's where the top of that wall should be. And you can tell that it's too high on this end and looks like it's right on that end. In order to fix that wall, I'm just going to click on the wall, edit the profile of the wall. You get the nice magenta line around it. You can drag these down to that line and finish it, and then you can get rid of that line that you put in there. Okay, so fairly easy to fix that just by editing the profile of that wall.
How high up would you make that?
3 foot off of the nosing. That's handrail height is 3 foot above the stair. It's actually a range. The code says it's a range between 34 inches and 38 inches, I think. So I usually put it at 3 foot. Okay. Also, this wall is going way out into my landing, and I can pull that back. But as soon as I pull it back, it affected that top again, right? So I'm going to undo here a little bit. So I get that line back in there. Then I'm going to pull this back to where I think it should be. And what I should probably do is put a dimension on to verify what a distance is here. Probably from the sheetrock to the sheetrock. And let's say I wanted that to be 5 foot. I can, now that's at 5 foot. Now I can edit the profile of the wall, pull this point up till it hits there, finish that. So some little modifications that you might have to do when you're trying to come up with the most perfect detail that you can for the stairwell. Okay. A couple of other things as we're looking at the stairwell that aren't really obvious as we start here, but what size are the stringers on a stairway typically? 2x12s? Okay. And I want to verify that this depth of this stringer is like a 2x12. So I'm going to take this line and I'm going to copy it from that point to that point. Okay, so that's where the notch in the stringer would be. I'm going to actually delete that line. I'm going to draw a new one in there, I guess. From here to here. It looks like my nosing line here got off a little bit. So I'm going to then that's where the top of a 2x12 before it got notched would be. So if I offset that line, the depth of a 2x12, which is 11.25 inches, right? That's where the bottom of the stringer should be in order for this detail to be accurate. Okay. In order to change that, I have to change the style of the stairway. So I want to find out what the distance is between this point and the the bottom of the 2x12. So if I go to copy this line from here to that corner, I can put a dimension on there from there to there, and that should be 5 and 13/32 inches, right? I'm just temporarily putting that line on there. So I'm going to go click on my stairway. I'm going to go to edit the type, and they don't call them stringers in the stair modification properties. They call them right supports and left supports and so forth. So I'm going to click on the right carriage, I believe it is. Click the down arrow. No, it must be the carriage here. Click the down arrow. Okay. So here it tells me the structural depth on the run and the structural depth on the landing. The run is the flight of stairs, and it defaulted to 2.5 inches. And that's what I said should be, what, 5 and 13/32? And I'll say OK. And that was on the right support, so I'll have to go check the left support. And it changed it automatically. So it made them both the same. I'll say OK. A stairway typically requires 3 stringers. The program automatically puts in 2, one on each edge. So if you want a middle one, the middle support, you'd have to put the check mark in here. So if there isn't a check mark there, you'll need to put that check mark in. Apply that and say OK. Look what happened. It changed that stringer, right? It made it right down to that depth of that line that I'd put in there. Okay, so that's a simple modification. I can delete that dimension. I don't need that dimension on there, but now it looks like a 2x12 that's been cut out for the stair stringers. And it affected both flights. So it did everything there. Let's we don't have the landing in here, the structure for the stair landing, which is going to be some joists that create that landing. Let's click on that stairway again, and let's edit the type. And in this case, it would be, if we click that same thing, the structure depth of the landing defaulted to 5.5 inches. So it's a 2x6 floor joist system in the landing, right? Okay, that, depending on the size of your landing, if you have a 3-foot landing, 2x6s are probably fine. If you have a 5-foot landing, 2x6s probably aren't strong enough. So I want to change those to, I'm going to make them 2x10s. Okay, I want a stronger, it's an apartment building, I want my structure of that stairway to be stronger because there's a lot of activity up and down those stairways, moving furniture in and out. So I'm just going to change the depth of the landing structure to 9.25. And if I highlight that, you'll see that it now is deeper. Okay. The framing of this stairway goes up against the stud where it should be, but it looks like a 1x here, doesn't it? It looks like there's not a 2x10 against the wall. So again, if I go back to edit the type, go to that structure, It says it's 3/4 here, right? It's telling the width of that structure is 3/4. I'm just going to go in there and I'm going to type in 1.5. I should be able to change that. Won't let me change that maybe, huh? Well, I can go here. And here's the width of that structure, and it says it's 3/4 here. So if I change that to a 2x12, or 2x10, which would be 1.5, and apply that. Say OK. Now you can see that it's a 2x10, right? Now, since I don't have the joist drawn in there, I can go to annotate, use a detail line, and draw a joist across here. Okay. Because in the last, when I moved that depth of the section cut, I lost that line, but I also lost the joist space up on top here, which was more important to me to lose that and just draw this line in anyway. So I did that. Now, we need to have some direction as to how to frame this area here, how the hanger works off of the stair and so forth. And we need some detail work up here on how that happens as well. And Revit can create this three-dimensional stairway for you, but it can't give you all those fine details. So we have to do that with line work.